So before I go ahead and introduce tonight's speaker, I just want to take a couple of minutes to, first of all, welcome the new members. I am so glad with the enthusiasm with which people are joining our community. We started this just before confinement in Spain, and now we're 466 members. This is since June. In July, we were 320. So people keep coming. And that's a massive booster for us to carry on doing events. We had a bit of a break during the summer, and now we're back with hosting talks and workshops, and hopefully have a really good last quarter of this year. We have a sister meetup, which is the Madrid Design at Scale. They have 900 members almost. So this really makes a hefty community of people who are interested in what these guys, just three of us who just introduced ourselves, in the same things that we're interested in, which is how to do, how to carry on doing good design at scale and without breaking things. So in this community, you're going to be able to find workshops, discussions, events, everything that is related to design ops, research ops, and design systems. There will be other themes as well. We also have a YouTube channel, which I'm going to post here on the chat. On this YouTube channel, you can find past talks. You can find, although I'm just seeing that there aren't, yes, they're all here on the videos tab. We also have a website that goes with this community, which is the Design at Scale website. I'm going to also post these here. This is a place we're using. Oh, it just came really together with the other link. I hope you can see this. It's designatscale.es. On this website, we have interviews with people who have relevant experiences in matters of scale. Right now, you're going to find interviews there with people from Amazon, Deliveroo, people that hosted a couple of really nice workshops with us. So go ahead, check it out. The designers, please be kind with your feedback about the design. This is a work in progress. But the idea is to be able to interview and bring to the Spanish community this experience from professionals all over the world that can't be here giving talks. And we pledge to do this in English as well as Spanish. So keep your eyes peeled. We'll be doing other great stuff. And if any of you have a story to tell, it doesn't really need to be a massive, big case. If you have any experience you want to share, we have other formats. It's not only talks. You can come to us, one of us, me or Turo or Dani, and pitch your talk to us, and we can talk about how you can come and share this with the community. So when we started this community, one of our pledges was this, it was to bring diversity in experiences and opinions, because we believe this, it's only through diversity that we can promote critical thinking. And one way that we do this is to bring people from different parts of the world to share their experiences with you. So it's with a great pleasure that tonight I'm going to welcome Bruna. She's the lead of global UX research at Gympass, and she's going to be joining us tonight from São Paulo in Brazil, my home country. When I heard her story for the first time, I was like, you really need to come and share this with the folks at Design at Scale, because it touches really on so many things that we are interested in, because it's about how to overcome research challenges in an environment of high uncertainty. It's about the importance that research has acquired in the last 8 months, like we really saw in many companies how research really skyrocketed, and we started sitting on more tables because there were so many questions that people needed to answer. And so this is a story about that as well. It's also about how to do research at scale, international, fast, and without compromising in quality. But I think that also the story that Bruna tells is very much about the people behind the scenes. And I think that this is what we never get from, I often or seldom get from talks these days. So I think that her story will really appeal to you. During her talk tonight, if you have any questions, you can go to this website that I'm also going to post here. I've posted it right at the beginning of the chat, and I'm going to repost now. It's a Slido. A Slido is it's a website that you can join and ask questions anonymously. So if you have any questions during Bruna's talk, you can just go and put your question there. And at the end, I will moderate those questions. I'll pick them up and I'll post it to her. I'll ask her. We can have discussion about it. Okay. What else? I think that without any more further ado, and it's 6:41, I am going to leave you with Bruna to tell her story. Bruna, we're all ears.
Thank you, Sarah, for the introduction. I hope you're all listening me well. Thank you all for taking the time to join the session. I'm really glad for the invitation. So thank you, Sarah, Dani, Turo, everyone for the invite. Let me just share the screen. Give me 1 minute. Perfect. Okay, so I'm Bruna Maya, as you all know already, and I'm currently working as lead of global UX research in Gympass. Speaking from São Paulo, Brazil. We are a global company, but we born in Brazil. We actually born in Minas Gerais. And then we are on 14 countries. So it's a global company. I will introduce briefly what Gympass is for those who don't know. And yeah, so hello, everybody again. So nice to see so many languages and people from different regions and locations. I even saw Shima Hong from Ana Silva screenshot, so that's really nice. And yeah, so I'm a social scientist. My degree is in social sciences, and I'm working with applied research since 2013. And my specialization is in digital research, so that's why I'm working in digital products. I have worked in companies, in consultancies groups, and also in product development teams in the past 3 years. So based and born in Brazil, São Paulo, which is nice because UX research emerged here in Brazil, in São Paulo, around 2010. So it's a really new thing. We are learning, we are getting maturity. And yeah, and I also like to do embroidery. I am a video lover, I'm married, and I'm mom of 2 cats. So that's a background about me. And different from Lauren, that is speaking from sunny London with a little bit of sarcasm. Here in Brazil, we have like 33 Celsius degrees, which means 91 Fahrenheit degrees. So it's really hot in here today. And yeah, so you can see the Slido code here in all my slides if you want to leave questions for the end. So what Gympass is, for those who don't know, we are a B2B2C company. We are often compared with health insurances, but we also compare with Netflix because basically we provide access to gym facilities through one membership. So fitness studios, wellness platforms through one membership. So in the end, we are this platform that provides value for an entire ecosystem with companies, gyms, and end users. And then with the pandemic, with the COVID-19 scenarios, we go for 14 countries, more than 100 activities. We went to a scenario which we found out putting online 100 online classes, 25 partners apps, virtual therapy, online personal trainers. So it was a lot of things going on because originally we were offline driven. I mean, even being a digital platform with a native app and a website, the main touch point was with physical facilities, and the end user should go in person to the fitness partners so they could work out and etc. And with the COVID-19 crisis, we need to reinvent ourselves as a company to survive. You know, there was no other option. What would we do if our services was depending on a physical network that was suddenly locked down? So that is the main background of this research project. So as a fast response, the product team went to Code Red. We started to prepare the platform to provide live classes from the partners using Zoom links, editing the gym page and the gym status at the back office. And this impacted the entire user experience. Since the search, the homepage, the marketing communications, the entire journey should be communicating and facilitating the access to our recently online options. As the team was working on it, the UX research team had the task of understanding all these changes and what should be the next steps of product development. So at first sign, this is primarily what we do, right? As researchers, we conduct studies to bring user knowledge, to guide product teams, prioritize initiatives on the roadmap, and improve design. But the differences behind this UX research project in particularly was one, the level of complexity of the scenario. You are familiar with what's going on the world. And the two is the impact that we had at the end of the day on a company level. So we were impacting the product team, and then we started to impact the company in a company level. So of course, the future of Gympass is not being shaped only by the UX research team, but the important thing is that it's being impacted by UX research team too. So that's the main difference. Like we finally see it on the main table with the adults, right? So yeah. So at the same time, we were investigating the triggers that could engage users with online options. From UX to engineering, the company itself had a bigger question. What does the future hold for our value proposition? So, okay, we reinvented ourselves really fast and expanded our product portfolio fast enough to adapt to the needs of the new world. But is this new world a permanent thing? So that's the question we had by the time. So by new normal in our context, I mean, working out online through Instagram lives, to YouTube videos, home office with children running around, and homeschooling and math usage. And we really have, we actually have this photograph being shared in our Slack channels with people doing yoga classes on bubbles. This is a real photo from Canada, a gym in Canada. And we had this vision of the new normal, but we didn't know the particularities for the fitness industry yet. And also we had the global component because our platform is not customized by country. So we were talking about a complex context that becomes even more complex if we multiply by 14 realities, each one living a different moment with the COVID-19 saga. And then as a research lead, that was my first step in my primary role, to put the things in perspective and to show the business decisions, including tech decisions, that knowing these answers was important to understand the future of the company. And then other immediate responses will come as a consequence in this deeper behavior investigation. So I spread the research questions on this iceberg shape, just to make it clear that we were like a ship navigating in a sea of opportunities. And for them to understand the Gympass digital and on-site offers perceptions, we need to go to the bottom of this behavior. We need to go deep to understand that. And then pretty much we've seen different reports and news talking about how the lockdown would change the fitness industry forever. So McKinsey, Trend Watching, Future Media, etc. They were sending reports for us. And also the local news was talking about why traditional gyms wouldn't exist anymore. And then gyms getting more digital and emulating the workout online. So of course, this was important. This was part of our desk research data, and we took it in consideration, but we need to know the Gympass user's point of view and how we could fit this new reality. So the research project was sold internally. That was the first step. And then this project came to me because of a culture I've been developing since I joined Gympass, of participating in important product meetings to increase UX research participation. And also from the support of my leadership, who trust my work and see the UX research team as a source of a high level information. So I want to give high five for my CPO and my head of product and UX manager, because they saw the importance of this, and they helped me to scale this opportunity for the CEO and the other C-level board, for them to trust UX research team to be part of this main investigation about the future of the company. So we had a short time to explore a larger context. So that's why this is a subject about design at scale, right? Because things were going and things were happening fast, real fast. And then we had a short time to explore this larger context to start getting answers. And then we went to markets start to open. The gyms started to reopen in some countries. So here in Spain, probably reopen sooner than in Brazil, for example. And then while other markets were on the peak of the curve of the coronavirus. So I draw this timeline just to help you have a time perspective about the project. So we started in March, and then just to localize you on the time frame that I'm talking about. But we need to do it like really fast. And then for that, we hired a decentralized research team to cover local problems. So that was another decision that made the difference in our side. We didn't have the enough resources to take care of everything. And besides that, the level of complexity was too high. So we were like getting feedbacks from users in Spain that was facing a reality, and it's completely different from users in US, for example. So for that, we hired this decentralized research team to cover the local problems, and also for them to bring cultural context about what was going on. We hired them using the Upwork platform. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's a platform that really helps make research at scale, because it's a simple way to hire research freelancers. So we had a researcher in Germany, one in Italy, one in Spain, and I personally covered the Brazil and the US landscape. We target markets in the reopening process, so pretty much the European ones by the time, so like UK, Spain, Italy, and German, and complex markets like Brazil and United States, to run 50 in-depth interviews with users that tried our digital offers, and with users that didn't try any digital offers, but also kept their membership with us. So the question on our minds, like, what is going on? You're not working out, you're not using your membership, but you kept that. So we really want to understood what type of value we were bringing. And then we did the same questions on different markets to see the points of convergency and the similarities. So that's another thing. We did like only one research script, but we run them in different countries. The idea is to maintain the same questions for us to get this perspective about the differences. We also did an intercept survey on our logged experience with one single question, focusing on the user feeling. So we did the question, help us to understand what the future holds for physical activity after the lockdown. Select the option that better describes you at the moment. And the options varied on a scale between I want to go back to the gym in person as soon as possible, till I will keep my online routine even when the pandemic is over. Passing for a comfortable option, in my opinion, that say I honestly don't know. So we really embrace the uncertainty behind that moment. And we choose to run the survey as a way to collect fast inputs from users. So letting stakeholders, leaders, and teams less anxious with our deadline, and also bringing a direct response to the main question running their minds about the general post-pandemic feelings that we were facing. So the survey saved time. From these answers, the product team could work on reopening features. So as gym status flag, for example, new safety protocols checklist, and these types of things like short-term decisions. And improving the online experience, like fitness partners, editing Zoom links, scheduling features, and bug solving. So while we get deeper on the user behavior to bring insights for Q4 and for a medium long-term perspective. So this helps us to people being less anxious with everything that was going on. And then we see the results. That's also interesting, because we saw that users prefer to choose the option I honestly don't know. And you know that for designers and for researchers, this is not a comfortable answer, perhaps. This is a comfortable option for users to choose, because no one of us know what was going on the world. But for us as researcher, it was like, what I would do about this? What I would do if the main part of our sample is saying that they don't know what they're going to do. But this was a thing that we decided to embrace, to calm down the people's mindset, to see no one knows, things are changing fast. So let's just give time to run the research for us to better understand this behavior. And we also saw that people were excited to go back to the gym in person. So that was another thing, because the reports and all the materials that we were receiving were saying that people were not going back to the gyms in person. People will keep the online workout. Even after the vaccine, people will keep the online workouts forever. But then we saw that with this short survey, with almost 5,000 answers, that people are interested in keeping offline workouts. So here we got like some lessons to run research in complex times, because while I was doing this project, I saw that I had lessons to run research in complex times and at scale at the end of the day, you know, because now the context is COVID-19, so super complex context, but the lessons I learned could be used in any complex times and if you want to run research at scale. So here we go, some lessons, especially if you are in a global context and need to think about this research at scale. So this research framework can help, and that's what I want to share with you today. So lesson one, embracing the high level of uncertainty. That's a thing that I did, and it was good for calming the anxiety of the people, but also to bring new things for my research project that I didn't used to do before. So we often don't put such open and abstract options on quantitative surveys. So since it's a method to get closed answers about user behavior, it might sound weird to put some option for user to choose, saying that they don't know what they're going to do. But we did it because it was impossible to ignore the fact that people are not sure about the present and the future. So the future is being redefined every second, and the present is changing fast. So even if we did not include these options, our results won't be reliable only for a couple of days. So that's a thing that I changed on my process. So a second turning point was, how do you say to a stakeholder and for the senior leadership of the company that we don't have all the answers, and the research is more than ever taking a photograph of the moment? So how will they make decisions based on that uncertainty? So it was important to embrace that and to make clear that research team is for making questions and it's not for bringing all the answers. So for sure, researchers never know everything, and the main part of our job is to propose questions and to open minds. So that's a thing that I say to my team, like, let's get stuck into this thing, because in this complex scenario, reinforcing this was more important than ever. So that's the first lesson. Like, it's okay to don't know all the answers in complex times. And then there's a complex system, you know. I'm saying this because in the end, we realized on the analysis that all the factors were impacting the relation with physical activity. So it was not like clear the relation users were having with physical activity, since the health system, the schools, the government, and even the workplace was impacting if people were doing physical activity or not. So I took this slide from the senior leadership of the company, saying, look at this, look how many facts and how many things are impacting the decision of the user of using our platform or not. So like local decisions, pharmaceutical industry timeline. So there was a lot of things, you know. We were experiencing by the time a roller coaster of feelings. So I did this frameworks just for them to see, like, to illustrate all the complexity behind the moment that we were seeing, we were living, we were experiencing. So then I took this slide for my leaders, and that was pretty much what I say that I could get from my analysis. That probably we started with the stability, and then we go to panic, and then we go to like open mind for new things, and then we adapt to lockdown, and then we started to missing all day crisis and things like that. But in the end, when I started the project, I thought that the differences will be from country to country. But then in the end, I realized that the differences were appearing by cities. So things were complex considering a city level. So if I was talking with a user in Barcelona, for example, it was a completely different reality from a user speaking to Madrid. And it's the same country, but it was really different. So I tried to summarize all the qualitative information I was getting in this framework for them to see that it was really complex. And I tried to find a pattern behind that. So that's another tip that it's really important, trying to crack the code behind complex behaviors and try to create some framework that can shows to the stakeholders some glimpse of a pattern, you know. So that's pretty much it. And then we also have the vaccine timeline impacting the user behavior. We had different things, you know. So like the first outcome, the first research outcome was like a holy shit, you know, everything is impacting the user's routine with physical activity. So that's a thing that I needed to embrace to share with the senior level and C levels of the company. So then another thing that was interesting is that we realized that the main barriers to work out before the lockdown, we had these barriers, but then during the lockdown, the barriers, like a lot of different barriers came up. So there's another framework that I use for them to see the high level of complexity. And talking about everything, just to give you a background, I came with my second lesson. That is, you need to find your variable to trust. You need to find like one information that you can hold and make things more comfortable and make things more reliable. So that's my first advice for user research in complex times. Like, try to find your own variable to trust. So to support my analysis, we use the data set to cross-profile information with product usage. So like lifetime value, number of classes, things like that. That's why it was so important to bring other research materials and data science together to the project. So then I could use the data profile information to organize the spectrum of behavior. So we already have the profiles from another research. It was another material that we have, like personas and so on. And then I saw that the main relation that a user could have with physical activity, that wouldn't change because it was about their main behavior, their main profile as a person. And then this information I could use to organize the spectrum with the expectation with the reopening. It's passing a car with some Brazilian music right here. So let's just give them a couple of seconds. Okay, better now. So then we organize this profile information in a spectrum of more expectation with the reopening and less expectation with the reopening, the genes reopening I'm talking about. So that was another thing. Like we should choose one variable that we can trust. In our case, was the user profile, but in your case could be another information that you can say that is the safest information possible, and then you can start to play with this information, putting this information in other frameworks that could explore the complex time scenario you are facing. So in the end, we identified that the user profile had this direct impact in their relationship with our digital offers and their expectations. And then from it, we could start like drawing different initiatives and different recommendations based on that. A third thing is the new protocols for user interviews. So it's important for you to recap all the research protocols and all the design protocols you have, and then see if this is sustainable with a complex scenario. So for example, the COVID-19 also made us do some changes in the dynamic of the users' interviews. So it was imperative to ask users about their health before each interview, for example. And sometimes the answers were not positive, you know, like I interviewed one nurse in Rio de Janeiro, dealing with protocols, high demands, dealing with that, you know, in the end, that's the truth. So how do you deal with that being a UX researcher? So I need to put this new protocol for all of my researchers in my team, for them to make sure they will give this moment for the user to talk about their context, to talk if they were fine, if their family were fine, and etc. And I also had a lot of no-shows. So even paying a gift card as an incentive, as we primarily do, we saw the number of no-shows going up. So what used to be like one no-show in every 3 recruiters, then start to become like suddenly came in 3 in 3 not showing up. So we need to have like a backup plan for that. So we needed to spend more time recruiting and make sure that these users will come up on the time of the interview. So we reinforce our protocols of confirming with the user and making sure that they will appear. So in the end, our relationship with the users in the research project starts earlier. So we asked them if they were fine, we asked them if they were healthy, and then we will make sure that the users will show up during the interview time. Otherwise, our timeline will be completely messed up. So that was the idea. So then with that lessons learned, I realized that for doing research at scale in complex times, we need to make sure to see if the new protocols were demanded. We need to check that. And of course, keep your mind healthy. So as researchers, our emotions, got balanced in a situation like this because we're all facing hard times, but you need to keep focus. So I made like a short list of lessons learned for running research in complex times. First thing of all, remember that the best practice more than ever. So remember all that tips we have in UX design, in UX research, hold up to them, like to keep your mental health. For example, take your notes soon right after each interview. It sounds silly to say that, because we all know that we need to do that. But in the end, in this type of scenario, it's more important than ever to do that. So consider that time on your agenda to do the notes soon as possible. I see the importance more than ever in this complex scenario because my mind was so full. The minds of the researchers working on the project, they were like so impacted by everything that was going on, people being killed by the COVID and etc. That it was important for doing that. Don't take it personal. Don't carry the stories with you. So sometimes we face it, people saying like my uncle that last week for COVID-19. So it's really a really tough situation, and to be honest with you, don't take it personal. Don't carry the stories with you. I had this scenario on my team, some researcher that was really impacted by this information. And then we needed as leaders to take the situation and to calm her down, to understand that it's our role to keep strong in this type of scenarios, to bring answers to our company. And don't read COVID-19 news on the breaks. That was another practice that I share with the team. Like, so it's important to respect the break time and not to take a look in other data. I don't know how you guys do research, but my personal way of doing research is to take care of reading other complementary data to get my research better. But then I realized that in complex times, we shouldn't do that. And then remember, you are a human being, take care of yourself, especially if you're working fully remotely, or if you have some anxiety background of a COVID-19 situation on the family. So it was tips like that, like drink a lot of water, take breaks, stretch yourself, and you don't have all the answers. So be cool about that. And then even with that variable, my framework of analysis had to be future-proof and timeline-based. So I need to combine foresight methodologies with traditional mapping methodologies. So during the entire project, I keep that in mind. So we run surveys and conduct in-depth interviews, but we need a foresight framework to analyze the results. So it was necessary to interpret the user's speech, to filter what is coming because of the uncertainty and what will remain. So I kept this phrase every single day with my team, like solve the now, explore the next, and imagine the beyond. So that's why I came up with this framework where we could analyze and get the pieces of information that we were collecting on the research. We had this time session on each day to put all the pieces of information, like research nuggets, on this framework to see if we could get a timeline perspective on that. So let me see. Yeah, because users were saying, for example, working out online is so much easier. I will keep that forever. Or we had users saying that they were missing the gym instructor to teach me how to do the movements, for example. But doing entire training programs by themselves using multiple other sites or apps or YouTubes and etc. So reading between the lines and having an analytical mind are already requirements for researchers. But again, it was more important than ever to crack these codes. So this is another thing that I can share with you as a lesson learned. In the end of each session, we get this piece of information and we spread on this framework based on now, next, beyond. And then we use the same framework to organize the insights and to organize the recommendations for the team. So in the now session, for example, we had action points to improve the user experiences on a horizon of 1 semester. So initiatives on the user experience that should be prioritized, answers to more immediate questions about retention on digital offers and reopening transactional periods and so on. A lot of them already considered by the teams, and then we make that clear. Like, for example, yeah, this is a thing that we should invest now. In the next session, we had action points to be explored in the next quarter, but to be implemented in the medium term, like next year experience. So this also generates a backlog for the UX team, you know, because we had like more things to investigate it. And in the Beyond session, we explore the ideas and the opportunities that could strengthen the Gympass value proposition in a long-term perspective, including users' behaviors that will be the same even after the pandemic. And then frame what truly matters is another tip, because research will bring more questions, but it will come down at the same time. So we also have this framework to put the things on the right spot to highlight what was important on that moment, and making people don't think about what will come like next in a 1 year perspective. And then the research outcome resulted in a 120 slides report. But to share the results at scale and have this high level of positive impact, we share it in 6 different clipping presentations with insights catered to specific teams and meetings. We did key slides to share in the Slack channels, so anyone, even if they are not aware of the research project, could quickly get findings and insights from it. So in Gympass, my team does everything in English to make sure every country gets the research results. So that's another thing that could be highlighted as a design at scale practice. And the findings was extremely well received by the company. The vice president of new ventures said to me, like, now I refer to your research in every decision I take. So that is the positive impact that we could have getting these tips taken seriously, you know. And even the HR got benefit from this material because it helped minimize the stress level of the teams. Because people took this vision of, okay, so we have things that we don't need to take in consideration now. You can think it next. So that was really a stress relief. And I believe that happened because more than bringing answers, I brought questions. So my main lesson was that it's okay to don't know everything in these complex times. And then we spread the findings in these like pills, like research pills. So I got some examples here, but only for you to see the format. We have this like 8 pills, and then we start sharing these pills of knowledge on the Slack channels, like these research nuggets of knowledge. Okay. And then to recap, for user research in complex times and at scale, we need to embrace the high level of uncertainty. You need to find your variable to trust as your main source of information. You need to make sure you've mapped and then follow new protocols to run research. You need to keep your mind healthy. You need to find a future-proof and timeline-based framework to analyze. So mine was that circle with Now, Next, Beyond. There is a lot of foresight methodologies. So a tip is to take a look on that. It's a great source of knowledge. And then research being analyzed to frame what truly impacts in your business. I know there was a lot of noise here. I live on the street with really, really crowded, with a lot of cars and a big avenue. So I really hope that you guys were able to listen to me well. And if you don't, I think that we can minimize the impact of this noise in the Q&A sessions. And I'm really happy to go deeper in any of this point and any thing that you want to get more knowledge and to make it clear. Okay, so thanks everybody to join. Sorry again for the noise, and I hope that you could take some important lessons from it.
Oh, Bruna, that was excellent. It wasn't noisy at all from my side. I don't know if everybody else think the same. I heard you well throughout, and wonderfully told. I think that you've just swamped us with tons of new knowledge and information and tips. And I think that, yes, I mean, we've got the chat was going and people are saying that people really enjoyed your talk. And we do have some questions. I invite, for those of you who didn't post anything on the Slido, you can, if you feel more comfortable with the chat, you can use that as well. We have 14 minutes before the end of the session. Thank you for keeping to the time as well. You are a star. So we can have this little chat at the end and entertain some of the questions that I can see here. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to just read them. You can answer. If anybody else wants to just raise your hand and actually just jump in or post more questions, you still have time for that. Okay. So I think that there's a very easy one that a couple of people were asking, which is the name of the platform that you use to hire the researchers for your international study.
Sure, let me just put on the chat. It's like Upwork. It's a cool platform because it's not like signature based. You can pay on demand. So it's really interesting to have researchers across the globe, and it's not cost that much. So for example, making transparent, I think I spent just $2,000 on this entire research project for hiring different researchers. So we pay by hour. It's really good and interesting. So I really recommend it. It's Upwork. I just put it on the chat.
Okay. I would just expand on that. So how do you know that the researchers, I don't know Upwork, I've never worked with it. So how do you know that the researchers that are on Upwork have the skills that you need to run a specific study? Because I imagine that everything moved really fast. So you had a little budget to move a really big study in a very short period of time with people that you didn't know. So how did you manage that?
Yes. So it was really important to keep the team aligned. So like keeping email threads with all of them. We also did a couple of meetings together. So for opening the research project, I did a meeting with all the researchers I recruited for the project to make sure we were all aligned. I also created like some guideline for them to make sure everyone was with the same questions on the mind and we were on the same path. But for hiring them, Upwork, it's really interesting because they have filters, like skills filters that you can use to search for the best people. And then the freelancers have some kind of score like Uber or Airbnb. So you can see their scores as researchers. And then you can also use a filter that is like only hired 4+ score for you to make sure that you are hiring people that really knows what they're doing. So Upwork really helps on that. They have this feature. So for example, I put it that I need people familiar with local languages. So for Italian researcher, for example, I put it that people should be native Italian, so they could use the language to make users comfortable. I also put it that they need to have some background on market research and conducting interviews. And extra will be if they work it on global companies or in some level of complexity. So I did that, and then I received all the applications, and then I can like choose the ones that I thought fits the project best. And then I start to connecting with them through email, through these meetings to make sure we were all aligned.
Super interesting. Has anybody here ever used Upwork for this or other purposes?
No, not me. No, I did not. But this is really, really great because the topic of this entire meetup is this scaling fast. And your example is the perfect example, right? I have like 15 days or a month to scale up really fast. And how do I do it, right? And what I am assuming, never assume, but what I am assuming is that you had upfront some really good guidelines on how to prepare the user interview or how to run interviews for this particular company, all these processes, all these data agreements and everything, right? Or am I wrong? Or did you have to put in place a lot of guidelines to share with the new researchers? How did you scale?
To be honest, I needed to create the guidelines for this project in particularly. So we already used Upwork in previous projects, But for this one, being a complex research and getting like less time and high level of complexity, I needed to create new guidelines for this particularly study. So I create one guideline that I call a guideline for freelancers in complex projects. That was pretty much a doc on the Google Docs, where I put all these tips that I share with you. As we kept the lessons learned, I was putting there, you know, like even the tip of taking breaks and not reading COVID-19 news. This might sound silly in the first time, you know, like do breaks, drink water. It's like, it's not a thing that in the first side, it's related to UX design or to UX research. But soon as we run the first interviews, I realized that it was really important to have this in the guideline to be shared with all the researchers involved on the project. So I did the first 3 interviews in Brazil to have lessons learned. And then I started to creating this guideline from there. And then with a 1 week of space, I could start working the other researchers in the other countries. So it was really important to take this time to create these guidelines for all the researchers involved on the project to save time later, you know? So how can I do this on a scale? So the tip should be separated time to create your guidelines, because we will save time on the future on the end of the project.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to take my moderator privileges here and have another question related to this one. So
You just interrupted Lauren.
I didn't even
But
start.
you're doing
Don't
your way.
worry.
That's
Don't
really
worry.
great.
oh, did I? Can I just follow? I promise that it makes sense right now, Lauren. I promise
Go.
No, it was just because you just said that you put these guidelines together about how they were going to do research, but how about how they were going to report back to you? Like I've worked in projects, like I've been on both sides doing the research and also coordinating international research, and that was always the big problem. People would just come to you with different, formats of reporting and answering different questions. Well, maybe not answering different questions, but really difficult. Did you have a standardized way of reporting that you agreed upon before you started the study?
Yes, I did. I agree with them that they should send me like a quick report through email saying the highlights of the day and saying that the interviews went well. This because on the first days of research, we saw a lot of no-shows, as I shared with you. So we kept that practice of every day. I received a short report from them on the email, like saying we did the 5 interviews that were scheduled for today, or we did 1, or we did 2. And then the highlighted. So people mentioning this, people mentioning that, and the topics that I highlighted as the most important to know, they give me like a quick feedback about that every day. And then it's interesting because there's a different time zones on that, because I receiving these reports from Europe, I was receiving these reports from the United States and so on. So it was different, but then in the end of my day in Brazilian work hours, I could have this landscape of how was everything going on. So this was good. And that's another thing that I put it on the guideline. So I put like an example of this short report they should send me. And then the other thing was that framework of Now Next Beyond. So we put like on a mirror board, this framework, and they could leave the inputs whenever they want. So for example, today I had 5 sessions and they all mentioned that they are going to use YouTube instead of using Gympass, for example, random example. And they could leave a post-it with that information on the mirror board, like on the now, because it was a really emergent question. And then other researchers could take a look at it and put like a vote, like, okay, I heard that too. And then they just like put some small balls on that for me to see that there was not a thing coming up only from one field, but coming in a different countries as well. So that was another thing that we did. And then in the end, they sent me all the doc with the quotes from the users. So not a standardized way of doing that. I just mentioned that you should bring me quotes on all of the questions. And then we did this meeting where we just talk about the findings, so it were like a hangout meeting, and they could raise their hands and say, oh, I saw that on the Italian as well. I saw that in Madrid, but not in Barcelona. I saw that in Brazil. and then we just like keep talking. And then in the end, with all the informations, the final research report was built from my team in Gympass, so pretty much me and my colleague, where we get all this information reunited and create some report that could make sense for Gympass reality.
Wonderful, thank you.
I answered the question. Did I answer?
You answered it for me at least. I don't know if everybody, I'm feeling bad because I went in front of Lauren.
No, we were on the same page. Don't worry. That was kind of along the lines of questioning I had anyway. I guess just off the back of that, I'm sorry if I've missed this in your presentation, but it sounds like using this Miro board and having this framework and model is really interesting to kind of make sure everyone's aligned and they're all contributing. But again, you are a global business, yet you have nuances in each country. So how Gympass works in the UK is probably somewhat different to how it works in France and in Germany and elsewhere in the world. So how did you then report back and capture those nuances? Or was the ambition just to say, look, as a business, the shit has hit the fan and this is how we have to start operating if we want to survive a lockdown, another lockdown?
Yeah. We used to deliver global insights because the platform is not customizable. So we had this difficult today in Gympass. Even if we had different behaviors coming from different realities and different countries, our platform is only one for all of the users. So it's hard to bring insights. We wanted to bring insights country-based, but we know that in the end, they're not going to be used, at least from a product perspective. But that's the thing, because I came with insights from country for the marketing team, because they are able to customize communication and so on. So in the end, I come with a report that was a global perspective of user behavior, considering the entire situation that we were facing. And then I put these timelines, like the framework with the roller coaster of feelings. And I try to position every country on these frameworks for them to see a perspective of timeline. But saying, for example, UK is on that moment, but maybe Brazil will be on that same moment in like 3 months from now, something like that, for them to have a global perspective. And then in the now session, like things that we need to take care of, like right now, I took only things that were global, because I know that the platform won't be customizable. So we need to take insights that will have impact around the globe, not like only for one country. So that's pretty much why we were organized as a global UX research team. The idea is to bring insights that could be used even in the 14 different countries that we have. It's an ambitious of ours to have a team that is spread all over the world. But the idea now is to bring global insights. And then I had like one short deck with 3 slides per country for them to see the differences. But pretty much the marketing team used it, not the product team. Did I answer, Lauren?
No, super helpful. Yeah, I've got so many questions, but I don't want to jump in if other people are brewing questions. But I was kind of curious. Again, I've worked with clients who have explored options for kind of very intelligent systems to store a lot of insight and research that they've been doing. So again, I love Google Docs. And I think it's a great way of sharing, but again, it has its own issues. So have you, thinking about this expansion of research teams, have you considered different platforms? Like in theory, type in what's going on in Brazil or in Germany, and you can see nuances of that region. So I don't know, I just wonder if that is something you're exploring.
Yeah, sure. We use a metabase to see real-time data different from countries. So that's a thing that the data analytics team came up with. It was not a thing that UX team built, but they have this metabase dashboard where we can filter by country. So that's a thing that we use. And we were exploring Notion. I don't have knowledge to share about Notion yet, because we are like doing experiments, but we start to put all these bullet points from knowledge in Notion. And then we created a tag by country. So for example, if I am a product designer based on Portugal, I can take a look at the Notion and use the filter to see only the quotes coming from Portuguese users. So that's a thing that we are doing some experience right now to see if it's working. But I think Notion is a great tool for exploring that complex environments and scenarios, because they have this multiple tags selection. So we are trying to do that. And the Google Docs is only for summarize all of it and try to create some report that could make sense and just to share only one link with the stakeholders, you know.
I second you on the Notion. I think it's a great tool. We've been using it as well with great success, loving it. Right, we're right on the spot for the time. I'm not sure whether people can stay a little longer. I think that there's a couple more questions on the Slido, don't know how to say it, website. There's one that says, during the uncertainty period, you gain trust and resources on researching. How about the rest of the company? Was it downside or hibernated somehow? I'm guessing that the question is about, you know, you were able to hire these people, but was the company suffering behind you? And how did you justify that? I think.
Yeah.
It's anonymous. I don't know.
So let me think, how can I answer that? Because it's a tough question. In the end, I think that the research culture that I was building through these years, it was a thing that was on my side, because I had another successful cases on the team that I could share with the VP and ask for money. At the end of the day, it was pretty much it, you know. But we had now we had this thing that we did, that is, in the beginning of each quarter, we separate a budget from research. That's a thing that I discussed with the VP of product team. And then we had some money from it, you know, and then, but the idea was, when I shared the slide with the iceberg, I put it on the presentation. That's when the things got seriously, you know. That's when the senior leadership of the company say, okay, maybe you are right, and maybe you need to put money on the research team, on the UX team in the end, because we are a research team, but we are a part of the UX team. We need to put resources and money on that, because maybe you are the department that could bring answers to us. So that was probably what happened. Like, we had this this trust culture that we started to create on the last year. So that in the end, it was easy to ask money, to ask budget, to ask resources, and so on. And then the company used us as a team that could make things even like cooler, you know, in the end. Because the company was like, all of us were going crazy. We had people getting fired. We get like countries locked down. It was a complex scenarios, you know. But in the end, the research team was a team that could make things cooler, because we had this framework at the end of the day. And then we could tranquilize people, saying, you don't need to think about this right now. This is on a beyond session. Think about the now. So then in the end, the research team was some kind of facilitator of this process. And I think that is interesting, because us in UX, as in design, we have so much frameworks that is so cool to co-create and to put people together to create and to think and to design new projects and new initiatives. And that's what came to my mind during this scenario, you know, like, should I use this toolbox to help the company to survive? The answer was yes. And then it was pretty much what I saw to my leaders. Like, I have this knowledge. The UX team had frameworks of workshops, of design sprints, and so on. Let's use that to survive this difficult time. And that was pretty much what happened. I don't know if I have lucky on that, but I guess that the answer is preparing the field of research, delivering insights that really delivers business impact. Because when you have some complex times in front of you, you could use that, and you could use this experience to sell to the company how UX research matters at the end of the day.
And so it does. Excellent work. There's one more question, if I can push for time. We're just 5 minutes over. Can you tell more about how you got the data team involved? I think you mentioned, I think you mentioned something about you got data.
Yeah.
Another, it's not something that you have, but you had to get someone else involved. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. That's a thing about, I don't know, maybe a relationship thing. We are close to the data analyst team in the way that we are structured on the Gympass, because data analyst team is inside of product team, and so as we. So that's the thing. And then I start creating one bi-weekly meeting with the data analyst team to share things going on. And then it was the perfect timing for for them to make involved on the process, because we had the bi-weekly meeting and I just told them, I have this project going on. Can we work together on it? Can we help me with this data on the real time? And the relationship was established, you know? So my tip would say, if you have some data analysts on your team, be closer to them, even if you don't have some project on mind, just to chat about, you know, because I create this ceremony of connecting with them 1 hour bi-weekly. And then it was really good to make things, the relationship better with the two teams. And then in the end, it was a thing that it was like natural to work together.
So that was something you'd done before, and then so it happened.
Yes.
So you've been preparing for the pandemic all your life, essentially.
Yeah, I guess I could say that.
Wonderful, Bruna. Look, I think that we need to leave it here because it's way past the time now.
Sure.
If you have any burning questions, I'm going to post Bruna's Instagram and LinkedIn profile on the meetup page. You can get in touch with her. And again, thank you everyone for coming tonight. Thank you, Bruna, for sharing your story with us. It was amazing. We need more Brazilians to come and tell
in the world, right?
In the world.
Um,
Sure, feel free to reach anytime, guys. I hope I answered all the questions and I hope it was insightful for you somehow. So feel free to just connect and we can chat more about it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.